unlimited creation. Describe your needs and goals, and AI will transform your tailored brief into a unique website that's ready to perform in minutes. Customize it. Shape your
artistic, talented. Yes. She was beautiful. She was creative, artistic, talented, a genuine person, and we all loved her so much.
Gabby Petito never goes outside.
Bubbly, energetic, adventurous. Gabby Petito wanted to share her life with the world. She succeeded, though tragically, not in the way she planned. These are the pictures Gabby wanted us to see.
Brian's stretching, doing some morning yoga.
Outside looking in, she did look happy. It might not have been as great as people online perceived.
But this is the vision that's now impossible to unsee.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be honest.
My face, I guess.
It's confronting to watch a disaster unfold before our eyes. But it's even tougher to look away.
This has been one of those stories where there's been surprises and
Okay. For context, Gabby Petito and her partner Brian or part of an American tragedy, and basically they were both influencers that traveled the world and just documented what they did. They were travel influencers, and on the outside it looked all like nice and dandy, but inconsistency started to appear in the relationship. Like, there's a body cam footage that we'll see later on of a police stop because Gabby and Brian got into an altercation and it was physical, and Gabby ended up taking the blame for it, and she ended up getting charged for that. But basically, Gabby and Brian went missing, and Gabby was found later in their travel van, unalived. I can't say the word, but it was not her doing. She was unalived by somebody, and speculation thinks it's Brian, because he just disappeared. He disappeared, and he went and he hid out at his parents' house later. And Brian was the main suspect because of course, the domestic abuse that was happening in the relationship, and he just acted very suspicious, like he wanted nothing to do with Gabby, and he didn't try to help her or anything, and it was also his travel ban too, so that was very odd. And Brian ended up going missing too later on, and people found him also unalived later. So they're not sure. Gabby was definitely, somebody did that to her, but they're not sure if Brian did it to himself. It's speculated that he did not do that to himself, that it was happened to him. So that's just a little context behind the Gabby Petito case. I'm not giving you all the details, of course, because we're gonna listen to it, and this is going to be about an hour-long sleepy live, and I'll put my input here or there, but I'm mostly here to just sit, relax, and listen with you guys too, like a true crime girly.
twists and turns all along the way.
2 people went on a trip, 1 person returned.
Now, Gabby is dead. So too is her fiancé, the man who claimed to love her, but likely killed her.
She was a bright, shining star. Now she is a star.
Tonight,
She was stolen. She was taken from us.
Can you guys hear the video clearly? It's gonna be my first true crime. Oh, true crime's a good thing to get into. Come and join us. Can you please play a Juice WRLD song? I'm doing true crime right now, but maybe later.
answering the hardest questions. What goes through your mind?
I was just shocked.
How did it come to this?
I don't know, we just invited one morning.
For me, it's a murder in slow motion.
why were warning signs ignored?
Not only did we see them, but we saw an altercation.
Could and should Gabby Petito have been saved?
Also, for context, this is what Gabby Petito looked like. Like, she was a very young girl. Like, this should not have happened to her.
It's 2.5 months since Gabby was murdered. As her family struggles with deep grief, they're overwhelmed by a need to let everyone know who their daughter really was.
Everybody sees the pictures of her out there as an adult, but when I close my eyes and I think of her, I still remember a little blonde hair, bright blue-eyed little girl with her hair up in, ponytails and always smiling no matter what.
And what was Gabby like growing up?
A spitfire. She did a lot. She was very busy. She loved her friends. She always had a bunch of friend groups.
Brian, we'll check it out. We'll go to the beach. Just listen to the ocean. Look at the waves. Look at the sand. Watch the sunrise. Watch the sunset. That's what she was.
Inspired by adventure, no one in her family was surprised when in July, Gabby quit her job and announced she was setting off in her little white van for a trip across America. And the 22-year-old wasn't just going to live her dream, she was going to share it too.
Hello, and good morning. It is really nice and sunny today.
The wannabe social media star invited the whole world to tag along for the ride.
I love the van.
But it wasn't just Gabby her followers got to know. By her side, through it all, was her fiancé, Brian Laundrie.
We've been lucky so far at all the places.
This is what Brian looks like. Telegram.
We've stayed, but I'd say this is one of the best so far. Since we left New York, I've only set up my hammock once, and now we're all the way in Utah, and luckily enough, I was able to set up my hammock in one of these trees.
And we're kind of like in the desert.
Very few trees.
In Brian, Gabby thought she'd found a free-spirited soulmate, and her frequent Instagram and YouTube posts were as much about their love story as they were about location shots. When did Gabby first meet Brian?
They were friends in high school. So they've known each other for quite a few years.
And when did they become a couple?
2019-ish.
Yeah, it was after high school.
Yeah.
They kind of reconnected again and started hanging out and dating. And
It happened pretty quickly, but, he seemed fine. I don't know. He was very polite and quiet.
So in your mind, she was heading on this trip across America with the right kind of guy, someone that she was in safe hands with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ever wondered what your home...
Okay. So here we have it. Gabby and Brian met in high school, had off and on relationships throughout their high school, ended up together at age... Gabby was 22 and Brian was 23, I believe. And Gabby's travel van was pretty standard. It was a 2-seater front, and then the whole back of it was remodeled. It didn't have a shower or anything special like that. It was mostly a bed and a few shelves. You could actually look up her van online where her body was found. But they brought stuff like tents and, as Brian mentioned, a hammock. So it wasn't just they slept in the van. Sometimes they would sleep out in a tent in the desert or on a hammock in the forest. It just really depended on their mood and location. Also, Gabby Petito's account is still up too if any of you guys are interested. She had a following of 1.3 million and over 230 posts. So it's her following is all under case. Her Instagram, I'll let you know, it's all under case, but it's GABSPETITO. So Gabs Petito. I strongly suggest going and looking at her account, because what she did in the short amount of time that she was alive was truly amazing. She did really make the most of the life that she had.
Way across the United States, stopping at some of the country's most breathtaking natural wonders, making memories that were meant to last a lifetime, and sharing them with their families and followers.
Kind of sketchy
How
though.
often were you in contact with Gabby
That's
while
really
her and Brian
impressive.
were traveling?
Damn, yeah.
I would say on average every other day or so, almost every day. She would text, she would FaceTime, send me pictures of where they were going. I loved getting the updates. I was in awe of what she was.
Yeah, so Gabby and her mom and dad had like a pretty like tight relationship. Like Gabby moved out straight out of the house at 22 and then went and did her traveling. But she had a stable house. She had a mom and a dad, both her biological parents. And I mean, think about it from the parents' perspective. You have this beautiful young like daughter who's going all these new places that you're used to talking to every day, hearing their voice every other day, seeing pictures and updates, and then suddenly they go ghost on you, states and states away. Like, I can't even imagine the panic going through them when Gabby just wasn't responding anymore.
She was doing, it was just amazing.
As parents, did you have any concerns about this trip?
Oh, of course. I worried. I told her to be careful, be safe, make sure to be aware of your surroundings. Don't trust everybody. But I felt safe because she was with Brian, and I felt like she would be okay. I thought he would take care of her.
How wrong Gabby's family were.
Hi, I'm calling to report a domestic dispute. They just drove off. What were they doing? We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
This was on a highway leading out to Arizona, but the caller called in and basically was like, hey, there's a couple fighting on the road. Who was that couple? Gabby and Brian. This was the first flaw that was publicly seen in their relationship. The traffic stop.
He was slapping her? Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off. All right, I will let somebody know. Thank you.
It was 6 weeks into the trip when the first cracks appeared in the carefully curated facade Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie had created.
Currently doing 45 miles an hour.
So this was in 2021 this happened.
Zone for the year is 25.
This particular body cam is filmed in 2021.
Coming up,
It's just hard to watch.
an unfolding and preventable tragedy.
It's a murder in slow motion.
All caught on camera.
You just greenlit the abuser.
And
I just remember
the last time Gabby is seen alive.
she was crying.
That's next. This is the footage that introduced most of the world to Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie.
You want to place your vehicle in the park and go ahead and turn it off for me? Park? Oh, it isn't parking. Okay, turn off your engine.
So this is where the traffic stop took place. Like, do you see that? That's not in town. That's out in a desert. Like, it's not anywhere super public. So imagine fighting with your spouse on the side of this, like on the side of this. Like, this is a sketchy place to be fighting. Looks like that car was going pretty fast. This is definitely out of town, so I'm guessing the speed limit is over 45. Arizona, the speed limits are crazy too, so probably anywhere over 45 to 60. But yeah.
And go ahead and set your keys on the dashboard, all right? What's your guys' names?
Gabby.
Gabby, Brian? Okay. What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm sorry, we've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
You can't hear it, so I'll let you know. But she said, I'm crying because we were fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
12th of August, 6 weeks into their trip across America, the couple's picture-perfect partnership began to publicly unravel.
I was distracting him from driving, I'm sorry.
I was distracting him from driving. I'm sorry. Right there, Gabby has apologized twice. Brian's in the driver's seat smiling right now, and Gabby has tears going down her eyes. And within 20 seconds of talking to this officer, this outsider of their relationship. She said, I'm sorry twice. She's taken the blame. She's underplayed the issues at hand by saying it's just personal issues. It's nothing public. It's just us. It's just an us problem. You don't have to worry about it, is basically what she's saying. And then right here, I was distracting him from driving. Me, Gabby, I was distracting my spouse from driving. I'm sorry, this is my fault. Right there. It's just heartbreaking to see after knowing what happened to her. You can just tell that she doesn't want to get him in trouble. And her not wanting to get him in trouble means that he did something wrong. If you're trying to protect your partner off the bat like that, jumping out of the gate like, it's me, I did it, like it's my fault, like, please, it's me, my partner didn't do anything. Your partner did something then. Like, if you're that headstrong at taking the blame and distracting the officer from your partner, most likely your partner did something.
Can I get you to step out of the vehicle for me, ma'am?
What you're watching is distressing police body camera vision, recorded after the couple was pulled over following reports of a domestic violence incident in Moab, Utah.
Hi, I'm calling to report a domestic dispute. They just drove off. What were they doing? We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
For all their attempts to portray happiness, this was the reality of Gabby and Brian's life on the road.
Gabby said, I just quit my job to travel across the country and I'm trying to start a blog. I have a blog, so I've been building my website. I've been really stressed and he doesn't really believe that I could do any of it, so we've just been fighting. Right there, once again, she apologized. She apologized for his behavior. That's also very disheartening to hear that he doesn't believe that she could do it. That's her dream. She quit her job. She moved away from her family. She stepped out of her comfort zone. If you're her partner, you should believe. Sorry, I'm trying to really be not one-sided in this case, but this is typical, like, signs of emotional abuse too, and it's just very disheartening to see. All morning, and he wouldn't let me in the car before, and then
And you wouldn't let me in the car before. And then
Why wouldn't you let you in the car? Because girls eat.
he told me I needed to calm down. Yeah, but I'm relatively calm. It's hot outside, man. You're on a freeway. These cars are coming by fast. You're in the middle of the desert. There's snakes out there. I was born in Arizona. There's snakes out there. Sometimes tarantulas, scorpions. You can't just kick your partner out of the car. She's a little lady. And I'm not like all feminist or anything like that. Like, that's not what I'm coming from right now. A little lady like this in Arizona is so big on human trafficking. It's horrible. That right there, not okay.
so we need to calm down. Yeah. But I'm perfectly calm all the time.
I'm calm all the time. He really stresses me out, and this is a rough morning.
And he really stresses me out, and this is a rough morning.
My instinct about what I was seeing on camera was this is bad news. I knew it wasn't going to end well. For me, it's a murder in slow motion. This was preventable.
Like millions around the world, criminal profiler Laura Richards has pored over Gabby and Brian's encounter with the police. She says it's clear that coercive control was a factor in the relationship.
This was one human being behaving in a way that was insidious, controlling and manipulative, not just to his partner, but to the police officers.
For more than an hour, police went back and forth between the couple, trying to get to the bottom of their fight.
Okay, this is crazy. So this is what Brian looks like talking to the police. Calm, collective. He has a little smile on his face.
Police went back and forth between the couple.
See, look at
trying
Gabby.
to get to the bottom.
Brian's all calm, collected, has a smile on his face, a shit-eating grin on his face, and Gabby's emotionally broken down.
Of their fight. From the outset, Brian was cool and calm and tried to downplay the incident with Gabby.
Do you mind lifting up your right
Yeah, it is crazy. Right now, Brian's showing his arm, pointing to no marks at all, but saying, oh, that's where she got me. So Brian said, I suppose fingernails, but I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about those. Talking about the wounds that Gabby inflicted on him.
Is it bruised or tender or anything?
Is it bruised or tender or anything? Is what the police officer said.
I'm fine.
No, I'm fine. And I love Gabby. I hope she doesn't have too many complaints about me. Wow. Let's just break that down. He is talking about he's being very bashful, like, oh, I have these fingernails in my arm. She hurt me. She imprinted my body, but no, it's okay. I'm not complaining. Like, it's okay. That's just what she does. I love Gabby. I love her, and I really hope that she's not talking bad about me. Very controlling, very manipulative. I really hope she doesn't have too many complaints about me. Right there. He's trying to connect with the police officer. Like, that's... He's giving complaints about Gabby. Trying to be all boohoo. Look, I have fingernails in my arms and blah, 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 blah. And I love this girl, and why would she do that to me? And Gabby's in the police car, sobbing, crying, apologizing profusely for his behavior.
Initially, Gabby tried to protect her fiancé.
There's something on your cheek here. Looks like, did you get hit in the face? Kind of looks like something like hit you in the face. And then over on your arm, shoulder, right here. That's new, huh? Have a new mark.
But then admitted that Brian had been violent with her.
Two people that came to us and told us that they saw him hit you. There's two people saying that they saw him punch you. We're just independent witnesses by Moonflower.
Well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Gabby said, well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him in the face.
The officer said, where did you hit him? And Gabby said, I slapped him in the face.
You slapped him first, and then what, just on his face?
Shut up.
Gabby said, he kept telling me to shut up.
Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, and then I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth if he actually hit you. Because, you know...
Gabby said, I guess, yeah, but I hit him first. Gabby has a big mark on her cheek right here, and a little one right here, almost like she was grabbed like that. And her whole side of her arm right here is all red. So she has 2 marks developing. Well, Brian's complaining about little nail imprints.
Yes, yeah, but I hit him first.
Where did he hit you? No, don't worry, just be honest.
Grabbed my face.
Gabby said, well, he like grabbed my face like this.
Like this. I know my own cut right here. I can feel it.
Gabby said, I definitely have a cut right here because I can feel it when I touch it. It burns.
Yeah.
This could have been, and should have been, the turning point in this story. But even after pushing Gabby for the truth, police seemed to side with Brian in this story. But even
Look at Brian.
after pushing
Look
Gabby
at
for the
him.
truth, police seemed
Laughing
to side
and
with
joking.
Brian.
When I first got here, we were more worried about what kind of a guy you are from what we heard. When I'm talking to your girlfriend, it sounds to me like maybe this is not so clear cut. So.
You just greenlit the abuser. You just reinforced his behaviour. And
That's exactly what the police officer did.
I think that he felt relieved, and I saw that relief. It was palpable. I saw it on camera, and he's joking, and he's sort of making jokes. And he clearly lied to the police officers, and they believed everything that he said. That makes me angry.
We sympathize with you, but based on what you've said, and based on what the witness has said, and even based on what your fiance has mentioned, trying his very hardest not to have you in any trouble, he does have marks on him that witnesses say were caused by you slapping him. And that even you say you slapped him and were aggressing him first. And I don't have anyone saying that he actually punched you aggressively.
Having identified Brian as the victim, by law, the officer should have charged Gabby. But he was clearly conflicted and discussed it at length with his colleagues.
She's got to be 105 pounds soaking wet, 22, full of anxiety, having a really tough time. Not making excuses, but I mean, it is written in the code. We do have a domestic assault here.
So basically what the officer's doing is they've identified Brian as the victim even though he's not. So by law in Arizona, when there's a domestic abuse case, even when the spouses aren't the ones who called it in, somebody, when proven guilty, has to be charged or taken in because that stuff isn't taken lightly. But what the officer is doing right now is he's calling a supervisor, so potentially the sheriff or a higher up or a captain or something like that. And you can really, like, what the words he's saying, like he said, oh, she's 105 pounds soaking wet, which just means like she's small, like she's a small girl. She's full of anxiety, she's young, like he really is conflicted, and it just does not make sense on how these officers are saying all these things. Like, I don't understand how she could do this, or maybe this just isn't the right charge for her, but yet let Brian off.
He's not wanting to pursue it. How far do you want to go with this? Like, you know why the domestic assault code is there. The reason why they don't give us discretion on these things is because too many times women who are at risk want to go back to their abuser. They just wanted him to stop, and they don't want to have to be separated. They don't want him charged. They don't want him to go to jail, and then they end up getting worse and worse treatment, and then they end up getting killed.
But the officer decided Gabby wasn't the one.
Did you hear that? The officer said the women go back to the men, it gets worse and worse and worse, and they end up getting killed. It's exactly what happened to Gabby Petito. If they would have taken Brian in, odds are she would still be here today.
One at risk. In no way, shape, or form that I can perceive does what happened.
It's crazy how much you know about this, though. Like, when you pause and explain it, it gives me so much clarity and such... Oh, I'm glad that it's making you easier. I'm scared I'm talking too much. Yeah, I've dug deep in the Gabby Petito case for a long time. I first heard about the case 2 years ago. I know people are going crazy about it now because Netflix just posted its documentary, which I have not watched yet. But yeah, I truly have a passion for true crime, and I do believe what happened to Gabby Petito was very, very unfortunate, and it should not have happened. So I pride myself on having the correct details and spreading the word about it.
Happened here, a little slap fight between fiancés who love each other, want to be together. Can I perceive that this is going to digress into the situation where he's going to be a battered man? Right. But then again, I don't have a crystal ball.
In the end, the police ordered Gabby and Brian to separate for the night.
I'm going to let him know that you love him and that you'll see him tomorrow and stuff like that.
No other action was taken, and no one followed up with them. Do you think an opportunity was missed here to
So by separating, what they did is Brian actually got to keep Gabby's van for the night. Nobody was charged, nobody was taken in, nobody was booked, but Brian got to keep Gabby's van since he was the victim. And Gabby was, I believe, drove in to a hotel or a safe house to spend the night.
to prevent this tragedy from happening?
In my opinion, there were multiple opportunities missed to prevent the escalation that happened. Had Brian's behaviour been picked up, there may have been a very different outcome.
I would love to
What was it
be.
like?
I actually want to be a homicide detective. That's like my dream.
Nicole, for you as her mother when you saw that footage.
It's just hard to watch. I wanted to jump through the screen and rescue her. I saw a young girl that needed someone to just hug her and keep her safe. I just felt so bad for her.
Okay.
Sorry, there's an ad. I don't pay for YouTube Premium. Oh.
For the next 2 weeks, the couple continued on their trip, posting more videos and happy snaps along the way.
If you go to Gabby's account, you can see this too. Like, the picture she posted after the police incident. If you go to the date 2022 in August, you'll be able to see her pictures, and those ones, just sort through them and you'll be able to figure out like which ones were taken before and after.
She said, I'm going to Grand Teton. She was excited to go see that area. I didn't even know where it was. I never heard of it. She was just said, okay, and I had to look it up and see where it was, so I was excited for her. It looked beautiful.
But the tension in their relationship continued to grow, and by the time the couple had reached Wyoming in late August, Gabby was at breaking point.
We were actually at a lunch. It was our first whole day in Wyoming, and we just by chance happened to walk into this little Mexican restaurant. Gabby was very clearly emotional. She was crying. Brian was evidently angry. He was, I would say he had a temper. And that's when I kind of started to take notice, like, wow, this guy is really, and I told Matt, my exact words were, he's creeping me out.
Matt.
So these two people are witnesses, kind of. They weren't related to Gabby or Brian or anything like that. They just saw, like, the disputes, kind of like how the people who called in on the highway or the roadway, I don't know what you'd call that. So they're nothing super significant in the story. They're just two witnesses.
Matt England and Nina Angelo were also in Wyoming on the 27th of August when they crossed paths with Brian and Gabby, who were in the middle of a heated argument with restaurant staff.
I just remember that she was crying and was talking with the hostess, and it appeared she was apologizing or about that for his behavior.
His demeanor, he was angry and it was temperamental, and
once again, Gabby apologizing for Brian's bad behavior. I hate to say it, but by Gabby doing this, she is enabling him. Like, making him think that it's okay to continue this bad behavior. It's okay. I'll pick up after you when you make these bad decisions, and I'll take care of it. Which is things victims do, unfortunately. They get into a victim oh my goodness, they get into a victim's mentality, and they feel that they have to pick up after their partner. They have to accept how things are. They have to apologize. And there's something Gabby did a lot.
it's just, yeah, and it was enough to make me feel uncomfortable. I think the best way to describe Gabby in that moment is she seemed extremely emotionally overwhelmed.
Yeah,
like she seemed like, the best way I could describe it is Gabby seemed like she was at her breaking point.
We now know this is likely the last time Gabby Petito was seen alive.
And not only did we see them, but we saw an altercation, right? So that paints a really clear picture of both of their personalities.
When did you begin to get worried?
I was worried probably day 4 and 5. I was texting her every day anyway, but I wasn't getting responses. By day 6.
So right there, like I mentioned, healthy relationship between your parents. You're used to talking every single day. 4 or 5 days without talking to her daughter. That is a lot for this mom. I know some of us out there go a long time without talking to family or loved ones. No, that's not normal for this family. So that was the first red flag that this mom came across.
Day 6, 7, I was checking her social media. I didn't see any activity. And I started calling her dad, and I was talking to Jim about it, and I said, I think I'm worried. And everybody was like, she's fine, she's fine. They're out in the mountains, they have no signal. And I said, no, it's not like her.
When she couldn't reach Gabby directly, Nicole tried to contact Brian and then his family, but she got no response. It made her worry something might have happened to both of them. On the 11th of September, after 10 days of silence, Nicole and Jim reported Gabby missing. But Brian wasn't missing. Remarkably, he was at home in Florida with his parents.
What's going on, Brian? You're supposed to be on a trip with Gabby, not home with your parents, Brian. You're supposed to be in another state with Gabby. You guys aren't supposed to be separated. You're supposed to be together, and Gabby's not answering the phone.
And had been for nearly 2 weeks. When did you find out that he returned without her?
The night of the 11th, when the detective came to my door to let me know that the van was in Florida with him. She also said that he had obtained a lawyer.
He got a lawyer beforehand? Tell me a mission of guilt without telling me a mission of guilt.
I almost fell on the ground because I was just like, where's Gabby? And that was my response to that information. And I just went into shock. I knew something was wrong.
Coming up,
I'm not sure I've ever covered a story where there's this much interest.
the desperate search for Gabby.
He shows up without her. What does he tell his parents?
While Brian's family stays silent. What do you make of the Laundrie family's response? And the police bungles that let him run.
We missed him going out there.
That's next.
Tonight, new developments in the nationwide search for a missing Long Island native.
We started this half hour with the breaking news surrounding the search for a young woman from New York gone missing.
Right now on ABC Action News, desperate for answers.
Plus the ever-expanding search for Gabby Petito.
So you haven't heard from your daughter in 10 days. You reach out to the people who likely last saw her alive.
You get onto the authorities to report her missing, and then you learn that her fiance's family has hired a lawyer. What goes through your mind?
I was just shocked. I don't even remember how. I was just in shock. I was shaking, and from that moment forward, it was like, we need to find Gabby. And we just went into we didn't sleep after that. We just went into the mode of, get her face out there, let's find her immediately.
Can you tell us a little bit about your daughter?
The search for Gabby Petito was urgent and intense, and the story very quickly became headline news.
I think people were first interested because you had this beautiful couple that portrayed themselves as being so happy on the road, and everyone was so convinced that this journey was so incredible. And I think when it took a turn, people became very, very curious what was happening behind the scenes.
Brian Enton was one of the first journalists to start reporting on Gabby's disappearance.
I'm not sure I've ever covered a story where there's this much interest. You have the entire country and really the entire world.
Yeah, this was a big like nationwide case because Gabby did have some following. Like, Gabby she was a beginner blogger, but within the short amount of time that she was blogging, she gained over 1 million followers, which really just showed like how much people liked her. Like, people genuinely enjoyed like watching her content, seeing her travels, all of that. Some people were probably vicariously living through her. I know I was, looking back at her posts, saying, oh, I'd love to go to this place, it's beautiful, oh wow. When you look at Gabby though, you could just see like rays of sun coming off of her. Like, she was a very, very bright young lady.
Trying to find Gabby Petito.
Hi.
It wasn't just the mainstream media paying attention. Online, Gabby's story was gaining extraordinary momentum.
Pause this, screenshot it, share this. This girl is actively missing.
The public is invested, and they're going through every single Instagram post, every single post this couple has ever made, basically, and looking for every little clue. The things that people find, it's so unbelievable. Things that I would have never even noticed.
Her roots are not there, especially in comparison to some of them before that.
Driving the intrigue was the extraordinary revelation that Brian Laundrie was refusing to cooperate with the police.
2 people went on a trip, 1 person returned, and that person that returned isn't providing us any information.
Controversially, Brian was only a person of interest in Gabby's disappearance, not a suspect. And that meant police couldn't force him or his parents to talk. Their silence was torture for Gabby's family, especially her dad, Joe.
What do you make of the Laundrie family's response to this, to you?
There's a lot of things that I would like to say that probably aren't appropriate for the channel that we're on.
You can say what you like.
I don't know if that swearing goes on your network. You know, the more I think of them or him, you know, that's gonna, you know, I get angry.
The police weren't
He's talking about Brian and his parents.
talking to Brian, but they were watching him, setting up cameras in neighbours' yards to keep an eye on him, assuring the Petitos and the public that they were monitoring.
So let me explain this to you. Brian moved back in with his parents, but Brian's parents lived in like a suburban neighborhood. They were probably retired, I'm not sure, it doesn't say anything about that. But they did have a nice house. But the neighbors were invested in Gabby. The neighbors allowed the police to come and put cameras in the neighbors' yards facing at Brian's parents' house. Which, before anybody, if you come and say anything, yes, it's illegal. I mean, yes, it's illegal because the cameras are on their property. It's kind of a loophole. I mean, you can't put cameras like if the camera was on the fence pointing like directly in their house, like you can't do that, obviously. But that's just a casual camera. It just so happens to have caught Brian's parents' house. Is basically what the police did. It wasn't enough to be like, that's illegal. Which I thought that was a pretty cool loophole the police did.
Monitoring his movements.
All I'm going to say is I know where Brian's at.
But as it turns out, not very well.
So the very strange thing is Brian Laundrie's parents were not cooperating with the police. They would not talk to the police about the disappearance of Gabby Petito. And obviously it was very, very frustrating to Gabby's family and to everyone following this case. Suddenly they call the police and say, we want to talk to you, but we don't want to talk about Gabby. We want to talk about Brian. Brian has now disappeared.
Did you hear that? Brian's parents called the police to report a missing person? No. They did not report Gabby as missing, they reported Brian. Brian is officially missing. Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie are missing.
When the police arrived at the Laundrie's house, they were met with chaos and concern. Inside, there was confusion.
There's about 50 journalists and news reporters outside of their house.
As Chris and Roberta Laundrie told the authorities, their son had left home to go on a hike, but hadn't returned. The police were forced to admit that Brian left undetected after the surveillance team confused Roberta Laundrie for her son. Do you think police have dropped the ball here in terms of essentially letting him escape or letting him disappear under their watch, supposedly?
I think police have been working very, very hard around the clock, but I think there are some really big questions about whether they actually knew where Brian Laundrie was when they said they knew.
Oh, wow, okay. Gabby is missing somewhere in a different state. At this point, a body has not been found. Before Gabby's body's found, Brian disappeared. It's speculated, at the time, the police speculated that he was just hiding out somewhere, somewhere close by, because you can't go that far on feet, and he didn't own a car, only his parents had a car, and his parents had all of their cars with them.
On opposite sides of the country, two searches were now underway. In Florida, police were looking for Brian Laundrie in the Carlton Reserve, while teams looking for Gabby Petito were in the Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming.
The Grand Tetons are absolutely beautiful. I mean, they're a majestic mountain. It's just a very gorgeous, very rural area. I mean, there's not much out there. I mean, it's pretty. You're out there in wilderness, for the most part.
Like Gabby and Brian had been doing, Kyle and Jen Bethune were living their dream on the road and sharing it online.
They were also bloggers, but they were a family blog.
The freedom to be who you want to be. You don't have rules out here, and you don't have to be put in a little box. You get to live life on your terms.
Y'all, look at this! It's the freaking Tetons!
In late August, they were travelling through the Grand Teton National Park when they spotted a white van on the side of the road.
And what stood out to us was that it had Florida license plates on it. And we were from Florida. And so we wanted to say hi, but it looked very dark. Everything was closed up. We just assumed that maybe they were out hiking.
At the time, they didn't think much else of it. But when Gabby's disappearance started making headlines, the Bethunes, like the rest of the online community, turned into digital detectives.
I ran to the laptop and I pulled up our GoPro footage and I was just praying. I was watching us, go down the thing, and I was like, please let this be the van, please. And there was a little white image and it just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And as soon as it went by, I just knew that was Gabby's van. It was unbelievable. I mean, I had goosebumps all over my body. And we were just in disbelief.
So these family bloggers, passed Gabby's van. And at this point, Gabby's global. Gabby's missing. Find Gabby. Gabby's everywhere at this point. So it wasn't too hard for her to figure out that was Gabby's van, because not only were Gabby's plates available in her missing persons poster, and multiple images of the van was too.
Kyle and Jen called the FBI, and authorities started searching the area. On the 19th of September, 300 metres from where her van had been parked, police made a discovery.
Earlier today, human remains were discovered, consistent with the description of Gabby Petito.
I've had to make some tough decisions in my life, tough phone calls. I'm a captain in the fire department. I was an ex-chief of my volunteer fire department, and I've seen some things and had to handle some things. And Not one of those moments ever prepared me for the FBI walking through our door to tell us that they found remains consistent of Gabby. And then having to call home and to tell.
Remains consistent of a victim just means it's not technically identified as the victim. To identify somebody as to identify a missing person as a body, usually the standard thing to do is DNA, teeth records, tattoo identification. I don't believe Gabby had any tattoos though. Scar identification and hair identification. So there's no pictures of Gabby's remains, but it was gruesome, is what I'll say. So they probably went off of the color of Gabby's hair, and that's why they were saying identical to her remains. Like, it looked like Gabby, but legally they can't say it's Gabby without doing the proper testing first.
Our mother, my wife, who I couldn't even hold at the time, that Gabby was found and she was gone.
And even though I knew that we were going to find her, that was the hardest phone call I've ever had to take.
Just hoping that at that moment,
that she was in a place that she wanted to be, looking at the beautiful mountains.
That moment, she found peace and was just looking at the mountains behind her, and maybe at that moment that she would just put herself in a better place.
Goosebumps.
And that's all we can pray for. It's something you never think is gonna, you see it, you
I watch these shows. I watch 60 Minutes and Dateline and 48 Hours, and you know, it's always like very
it's somebody else.
Interesting. It's somebody else's family, but you never ever think it's gonna be yours. It's just, it's surreal.
Do you remember the last thing you said to her?
I said, I love you. The last thing I said to her, my very last sentence was, I love you. And her last sentence to me was, I love you too.
In the weeks that followed, an autopsy revealed what her family had feared. Gabby had been murdered.
We hereby find the cause and manner of death to be death by strangulation, and manner is homicide.
Let me break it down for you. Autopsy is it's multiple tests that you do to figure out the cause of death. Strangulation, trauma to the neck that cuts off your breathing. Very, very painful and unfortunate way to go. And homicide is murder.
Parents aren't supposed to bury their children.
At any age.
At any age. Gabby was 22 years old. Her life was stolen from her.
Yeah.
She was stolen. She was taken from us.
She was taken. At somebody else's hand. It's not fair.
Coming up,
I think Brian's parents did help him.
behaviour beyond belief.
Gabby died of strangulation.
Spilling the Laundrie family's secrets.
Do you think they're involved, your parents?
That's next. With confirmation Gabby Petito had been murdered, the search for her killer intensified. And the only person police were looking for was Brian Laundrie.
According to Brian Laundrie's parents, he went for a hike in a wildlife reserve here in Florida.
While his fiancée was missing.
Right, exactly, which is very, very strange.
The Carlton Reserve was somewhere Brian knew well. He had hiked and camped there before, but it wasn't an easy area for police to search.
You look around from up here in the helicopter, you can tell just how massive it is. 24,000 acres.
We're looking through wooded areas. We're looking through bodies of water. We're looking through swampy areas, and we're deploying the resources to be able to do that. We have air units. We have drones.
This whole woods they're in is basically water with grass growing over it. So when they mean body of water, they mean like you take a couple of steps in the wrong direction and you're going like in the water. Not necessarily drowning, you can get out, but like it's truly like a swampy territory.
We have the swamp buggies, air boats, multiple law enforcement agencies. We're deploying every resource to get through any terrain that we encounter in our search areas.
As the days and weeks went on, the hunt became more desperate.
This is wearing on everyone. Everybody has a level of stress.
So at this point, since Brian was reported missing, they're not trying to find Brian for Gabby, they're trying to find Brian as a missing person. So then, during this whole missing person hunt, isn't for an arrest, it's for this is a missing person.
Everybody has the drive, and that's really what's carrying us through, is the drive to try to find Brian and try to put closure to this investigation.
3 signs you're strict.
By now, a warrant had been issued for Brian's arrest. Not for
Oh,
Gabby's
wow.
disappearance or
Yeah, a warrant for Brian's arrest was issued. I missed that.
death, but for bank fraud, with police alleging he'd spent...
Okay. Warrant for Brian's arrest is not for the murder on Gabby Petito. It was for bank fraud. But they are still searching him as a missing person as of this time in the investigation.
more than $1,000 on Gabby's debit card as he made his way home after she'd been killed. But Chris...
What a piece of shit. If he knew she was alive or not, does not matter. Technically, it's not 100% confirmed that he's the person who did that to Gabby. Come on, it's Brian. We all know. We all know it's Brian. But you took your fiance's credit card to get your way home. You are a grown adult. You could have done that on your own.
And Roberta Laundrie still refused to talk.
How do you feel to know that Gabby died of strangulation in the wilderness of Wyoming? She used to live with you. How does that make you feel?
The deafening silence angered Gabby's supporters.
Was your son involved in strangling Gabby?
We are seeking justice for Gabby and the Petito family.
While his parents weren't prepared to say what they knew about Gabby's murder, Brian's sister Cassie did speak out.
We want to know what the hell.
We have fully cooperated with the police since September 11th when they called. We are just as upset, frustrated, and heartbroken as everybody else.
And like everyone else, Cassie was questioning her mum and dad.
I am losing my parents and my brother and my children's aunt and my future sister-in-law on top of this.
This is Brian's sister who's talking right now. She's with her husband.
And you're not helping.
Why your parents? Why your parents? You're talking about Christmas.
They're not talking to us either.
Why aren't they talking to you guys?
If I knew, I would say. I don't know.
Do you think they're involved, your parents?
I don't know.
You don't know?
We know.
You're not involved?
We have literally been finding everything out with the news with like everybody else.
She was very thorough. I mean, she was forthcoming. I believe her. There was no nonverbal communications when that conversation was happening. There were no hands to the face. She wasn't rolling her eyes. I mean, she was straightforward, forthcoming. And now the parents have distanced themselves from her.
Lenny DePaul is a former US Marshal who spent decades hunting dangerous criminals. While he believes Cassie, he thinks Chris and
He's the best of the best.
Roberta had something to hide.
I think Brian's parents did help him. Once he came home, he shows up in the van without her. What does he tell his parents? Oh, we broke up. I left her out there. I just decided to drive the van back home and, let's go camping. It just doesn't make sense. You have to connect the dots. You got to put that puzzle together. You can't leave no stones unturned. You're looking at everybody as a fugitive investigator. You have to.
The Laundries were slow to help initially, but once they were involved, the search sped up.
The father of Brian Laundrie joined the search for his son this morning.
On the 20th of October, 2 months after Gabby Petito had been killed, and 37 days after Brian Laundrie had been reported missing, search crews in the Carlton Reserve made a breakthrough.
Investigators found what appeared to be human remains, along with personal items, such as a backpack and notebook belonging to Brian Laundrie.
Detectives don't know.
Human remains, unidentified, with Brian's belongings. Who do you think that is?
How Brian died, but it's likely he was dead before the police were even looking for him. The manhunt is over.
Brian was gone for 2 weeks before the police realized that he was gone and before the missing persons call came through, so it's speculated that he passed away but within that 2 weeks before he was reported missing, so he technically wasn't on the run from the police. Because the warrant for his arrest was filed after he is speculated to have passed away.
But the search for answers isn't. Brian has now been found dead. What does that mean for the case?
He sent a strong message to everybody that's been following this thing. He's obviously guilty, and unfortunately, Gabby Petito is no longer with us as well.
Coming up, how would you describe his actions?
Despicable.
Confronting the unimaginable truth.
It's just scary. You don't know someone.
And Gabby's legacy.
You made me proud, and I couldn't be prouder as a father.
Her family's vow to help others.
If it's just one. If it's just one, maybe it's worth it.
That's next.
Wow. Gabby Petito was murdered in the mountains. As of today, she is considered an unsolved case. An unsolved murder, but come on. We know it was Brian. It's truly a tough one. So to break down the case, there was domestic abuse, people witnessed it, the police were called. As we saw, Gabby had a very, it's me, I'm the problem type of attitude when it clearly was not her. Who knows what else went on behind closed doors. But she was found murdered, and her fiance, who she was supposed to be with, missing, then appears back in their hometown, hides out with his parents, like a little, I don't want to curse, hides out with his parents, his elderly parents, and refuses to help the police in any sort of way. Gabby's parents, Gabby's siblings, the community, anybody, refuses to help any with the case, and then goes missing and is found dead. And how Brian was found dead was body mutilation. So this is why they're not sure if he chose to pass away or if he was also murdered, because his body was found in a particular kind of state of deceased. But he was basically found in a swamp. And Gabby's family will unfortunately never get the closure they deserve. But I hope her case brings awareness to domestic abuse, mental health issues, and all around just safety. That's all I have to say for this case. I strongly suggest digging deeper into the Gabby Petito case because it truly is interesting, and there's a lot of facts that we missed in this, and this isn't even the tip of the iceberg. But that's all for today. Have a good night, and thank you, Banjo. You were amazing.